This is What the Floor from TNA Supply Company, Inc., a podcast for the flooring industry. I'm Holiday Van Aram.
And I'm Michael Gurria. We're going to explore the hot topics of the flooring industry with a little humor and a new set of eyes.
Hello, Michael.
How are you, Holiday?
It's been a hell of a morning.
Yeah, but it's Friday.
I know. That's fantastic. It's Friday. It's been a rough week. It's been ups and downs, mostly downs.
Yeah. I think we're in a new era. I mean, there's just so much going on in the market. Personally and professionally, people are struggling with a lot of different things.
So much pressure.
Yeah.
That's part of it. So much pressure, stress on the market, pressure to do better, be better, change our processes for next year. So there's just a lot going on, and it weighs heavily on a lot of folks.
Yeah, and a lot of unknowns. You know, how do we pivot? Where are we going? What do we need to have? There's so many new ideas about where product pricing needs to be, but we still have a lot of product at current pricing. And so how do we change and be effective in the new year?
Yeah, it's a tough question. What products do we need to be competitive? What pricing do we need? The thing I struggle with is prices keep dropping. But at some point, I mean, you don't want to go to the bottom. You don't want to be the first one to hit the bottom.
Right.
But we still have to be competitive.
Yeah. And I don't know that we know what the bottom is.
No.
So we're chasing an unknown.
Yeah. So today's episode, we're going to do a little differently. We don't have a topic for today.
Right.
But we're going to do a little recap of what we've learned about having a podcast, working as a team, and just share some of our highlights, our ups and downs from What the Floor, and kind of go over what we think, what our plans will be for next year.
Yeah, this has been, for me, such a humbling experience. Like, fun. I really enjoyed it, but it's been a learning process. It has not been this, you just step into the podcast booth or room and voila. However, some of it has been that, you know, Jose has done such a good job cutting and editing these episodes that he makes us sound much better than we really are.
Yes, for sure. I was pleasantly surprised, and I say shocked, but not in a negative way, Jose. You have learned how to edit a podcast so quickly and so efficiently. I'm super proud of you. A lot of people that do podcasts will hire a company to do the editing. They'll set up their studio at home and they'll do the recording, and then they will sub it out to somebody else to do all the editing and put all the post-production into it. And we just asked Jose, who works in our sales support department, if he wanted an additional set of responsibilities, and he graciously said yes, and has done an amazing job.
Yeah, this whole team has really come together with that, though. I mean, you know, Holiday, you having the kind of, I mean, really building this thing as your baby and getting all the gear and bringing it, you know, to what it is today. You know, Tony and Jessica, I think Tony named it.
That's my only claim to fame here. I just am like a fly on the wall. I offer my opinion every once in a while, but I've enjoyed just kind of being around for the whole ride. And
yeah, but it's been a team effort. You know, we come here once a month, or, you know, sometimes we have to split it up and do a couple different recordings, and it's been a team. It's been this cool little team that we've put together and grown to what now?
Almost 700 downloads.
Almost 700 downloads, 7 podcasts total.
7 podcasts.
Yeah. So here we've put this thing together out of, hey, we want to see if we can make this work. And can we reach our customers? Can we reach our employees? Can we reach, you know, some of our vendor partners in the industry? And we have, because we've had feedback from each one of them at some level, but it's been very organic, I guess I would call it.
Yeah. And I definitely could not have done this without this team. Yeah. And I had this idea to do this, but I would not have done it on my own. There's no way that just Holiday talking about flooring on her own would have made one, any sense. And two, just wouldn't have been engaging. So I'm so happy that you said yes, that you would do this with me, because I think that we work well together, but we have very different opinions about things and very different knowledge sets.
Yeah.
So I think it complements each other really well. If I hadn't found you to do this with me, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, and I think that's one of my biggest takeaways was, well, I'm not a professional on anything. I'm not the know-all about, mainly hard surface. But here we go, and we've came together and we've admitted that in every episode. We're here to just start a conversation. And hopefully that resonates with our listeners, that they realize, hey, they don't know everything, but they've learned a lot, or they've taught me a lot, or I've then taken the ball and gone and done my own research and grown what I'm doing.
Yeah. If we can just be the conduit to, here's an expert, we're going to ask a really stupid question so that we understand it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I think that's the feedback that we've received is, thank you for bringing up this topic and finding somebody who knows more about it than you or me, so that people can learn about it. Nobody knows all of the answers, right. And it's the opinion of what the best practice is constantly changing. But for our particular industry, we're so old school in how we communicate information, and it's not necessarily passed down very well to people that come into the industry. Hopefully we're just providing another tool for those folks to be able to continue to learn.
So do you have something that you thought was harder than you thought it would be with this?
Coming up with topics is definitely hard. We had a handful right off the bat that were like, okay, we definitely want to talk about these things, but it's not always easy to make a topic turn into a show.
Yeah.
To come up with like, what are we actually going to talk about? Who are we going to talk to? Trying to get people to like schedule an interview is difficult.
Yeah.
So that's probably been the hardest thing. We struggled too with just like the equipment and trying to get everything set up.
Yeah.
We finally fixed Tony's headphones today. So like,
7 episodes in.
We finally got it. So that's been difficult too, but I had no expectation that I knew how to make all this equipment work. So my expectations were pretty low for, how we were going to get it all set up. So I felt like topics would be a little bit easier, but I feel pretty good about the list of topics that we still have and the things that we even just brainstormed about the last time that we sat down and talked. So hopefully that continues to find its way each month. We end up finding something. We ask at the end of the show for listeners to send in their topics of things that we want to talk about in an episode down the road. We would really love to hear more feedback about what you really want to know about.
Yeah, that's been huge. And even as we met last, I think a lot of the topics that we kind of started coming up with for 2023 were stemmed from conversations we've had with customers or our own employees, vendors, that's what's going to make up 2023. So any feedback you can give, good or bad, we'll take. We're not professional podcasters. So we are still very new to this, but it's exciting to kind of plan out the next year. It's so fun to think about, we're going to do this another year. And we're going to keep going with it. So
what has been surprisingly the most difficult thing for you?
Topics for sure would be up there. For me, it was the intro and outro. I struggled like hell with that at first, trying to because we scripted that part out. It's not, our podcast is not scripted. We come up with the topic and then we do some research and we kind of come up with an idea of how we're going to move through the questions or the topic. But we do script the intro and outro, and Holiday was so natural at it and I was not. And this is very new to me. And so having my own head in my ears was hard at first. And I still continue to struggle with that a little bit, but just being natural, trying to be true to everybody out there. Do
you remember us sitting here and Jose pretending to be me?
Yes.
Just having you practice saying your name.
Yeah, it was weird because I would continue on with Holiday's kind of inflections, and that wasn't my personality. That was her personality. And it and so, I had to work on that. That was one of the
It's such a strange thing to have to think about. And poor Jose has to listen to us say the same weird things over and over again. Jose, what are the things that Holiday and Michael say over and over again?
Yeah, I also remember having a difficult day and having to come record. And you have to be up for this. You can't let that show through in your inflections, your voice, whatever. And, you think about late night hosts who have to do a show, every day and have to be up for that show every day. That would be so difficult. We do this once a month, and if it catches you on a bad day, you just got to soldier through it. So it can also be a challenge.
Yeah. Jose, Tony, has there been anything that you found more difficult than you expected it to be?
It was really interesting in the beginning because I I had messed around with like some editing softwares in the past, but like I never really did anything with like podcasts and audio and stuff like that. I remember the first episode, I was like lost. I had no idea what I was going to do or like how I was going to edit it or whatever. And then you gave me like a little template and you showed me how the intro should kind of go. Mm-hmm. And it was like, it just like clicked right there. And I was like, okay, well, that makes a lot more sense now. And then, I don't know, I just kind of rode with it. But the first couple of episodes were really interesting because I didn't know what to look out for. I didn't know, how to really like point out the flaws and things. And I remember one time, or I think in that first episode, you told me to edit out like a bunch of ums that like Michael had or something like that. So then all of a sudden I became hyper aware of all of them. Anybody else that we had on the podcast, I was very hyper aware of it all. And then it came time for me to actually speak on the podcast, and I was like, oh, I did not retain any of this. So I'm trying really hard to, figure out how to speak. Even like right now, you can hear it. I'm struggling a little bit with it, but I think the other thing too was like, I guess I felt like some weird sort of imposter syndrome as I was like going through it. Like I was like, dude, like, what do I think I am? I think I'm like this professional podcast editor. Like, what did I get myself into? But I feel like I have like a more natural flow for it all now. It's a lot easier than it was in the beginning. Mm-hmm. I think that also helps a lot that you guys kind of grew into your own throughout the podcast. The first couple episodes, I feel like we were all trying very hard to make it sound like a podcast, right? Mm-hmm. But then eventually, it's like we all just kind of stopped caring, and you guys just talked. And I think that really helped a lot with the editing process. Mm-hmm. You guys make it easy now, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And I just, as we've figured out how to avoid some of the problems that we've had, and that probably helps a lot with the editing.
For sure. Mm-hmm. Oh, and that annoying ringing or static sound that was on our board for like the first 5 episodes.
Yeah.
So glad that's gone.
Well, and just equipment wise, we've got 4 microphones, we've got the board, we've got cables running everywhere, we've got a million different things going on. I would still love to figure out how to add video to this, but that just seems like a very daunting, difficult task that we have not been able to manage thus far. So
I'm gonna have to learn how to edit videos if we're gonna go for that.
Do any of you have a favorite episode?
I was hoping someone would ask this question, and I was going to if you didn't. My favorite for sure was the flooring horror stories.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. I generally lean toward like story podcasts as it is. Those are like when I'm driving. Yep. Mm-hmm. There are a few favorites that I have where they just kind of tell stories. Hearing different horror stories from people that I work with every day was really cool. So I enjoyed that podcast.
Well, and that's been one of our probably fastest growing episodes just from the day that we loaded it to today. It has probably the fastest amount of downloads received out of all of the episodes. So I don't know if it's just the topic or if it's the way that we marketed the episode. I mean, that's always a possibility too, that we just reached more people. But I think people really liked hearing other people's stories. And I hope that some of the folks that were interviewed were also sharing the podcast and encouraging their friends and family to listen to it too.
And that one really helped boost the numbers on all the other ones too. Mm-hmm. Like, it was like people enjoyed that one so much they wanted to hear more.
I have been surprised by that every single month. I get a report every week of how many downloads you had from the previous week. And there are always 2 or 3 other episodes that have also received more downloads every time that the newest one has received downloads. I think that's great. It's, people who listen to one and then came back the next time to listen to other ones, new people that are not just listening to one, they're listening to numerous podcasts. So I think that's great. I'm glad that people are going back and continuing to listen to the older episodes, because I feel like it's evergreen content. It's not specific to a certain time frame. It's education based information. So it's good anytime. Yeah.
No, and that's the whole goal, is you can go back and listen to, the first one, the PVC free, that is such I am wondering if we do another podcast on PVC-free products in the future, because they just continue to grow.
I think we'll have to. The technology just keeps changing.
It does.
That's the fun thing about it, to be able to go back. And the same thing with our sound abatement episode. There's definitely an episode 2 waiting to happen there. So
yeah. No, I see that coming for sure.
What's your guys' favorite episode?
Good question. And I thought about it a little this morning too, but didn't come up with an answer yet.
I'll go while she thinks. I continue to go back to the PVC free episode. I just love the content from that. It's such a rising topic in our industry. We're getting better at interviewing folks. That's also something that's a learning process.
Yeah.
We've done now 2 or 3, and I definitely know we'll do more in the future. But for all those, listening, that's a process to learn too, how to ask good questions, how to ask leading questions, engage the interviewee. And I think we'll continue to learn how to do that hopefully better as we go.
Yeah. And it's so you don't know until you actually interview the person. Even if you've talked to them in person a handful of times, you don't know how they're going to act when you're actually doing the interview. Sometimes they clam up and they don't really have a lot to say, and you have to lead them and get, pull that information out. And sometimes you just sit back and listen because they've got plenty to say and they're not going to stop. I think the Sound of BAME episode was probably my favorite too, because I felt like I learned a lot.
Yes.
And he had so much information to provide, but it was exciting. I love people who, even if your industry is something maybe that most people wouldn't find really interesting or attractive, people who love what they do and have a passion and can share that when they talk about it, I love that. Yeah. It doesn't matter you could be a plumber, but if you love it so much that you just have this passion that, spreads from you when you talk about it, it makes everybody want to know why it's so awesome and be engaged with it. And I felt like that is definitely, he had that quality, and it made me feel like, this is such good content. I'm so excited about this.
Yeah. I'm excited to get it out there for people to listen to.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting how the claims episode right before the Flooring Horror Stories ones came out, that one was like the top performer. It seemed like a lot of people were really interested in that topic, and I thought that was surprising because, like, in my head, claims always seemed like a negative thing. Like anytime you talk to anybody about it, and then it was like reps were coming in telling us that, like, even people that aren't involved in the flooring industry, that they had listened to it, even they were super interested because it was like, sounds like an insane process, apparently.
Well, it's one of those topics that people don't want to talk about because they're negative, right? Something's gone wrong, and now how do we fix it? How do we get there? And there's a lot of emotion involved. And so I think that just talking about it, having a conversation, one of my coolest experiences from this was getting an email from a customer saying, hey, I had all of my employees listen to this. And that was flattering. That was so cool that we got that engagement, and that he found it that helpful that he would ask his employees to listen. That's the whole goal.
And it's the same experience. If you can show up at the store and do a PK, and they got everybody in the store to actually come and listen to you, that is the absolute best experience ever. Because normally it's just, there's just a couple folks that have some time to listen, or you got to do it over and over and over again as 1 or 2 people come over and have the time to talk to you. I had one of our internal claims folks that just moved into the claims department listen to the episode on her own and was so thankful because it gave her a lot of really good information about this new job that she's taken on. Just yesterday, it came up in one of our manager meetings that the claims department has heard feedback that they maybe aren't addressing things as quickly as they could be, and are already trying to look at how they can make some adjustments to make their internal process even better. And I think that part of that just goes to, not that we need to pat ourselves on the back, but having somebody outside of your department talk about their experience with your department and what they could do differently, or how other people view what they're doing, it can open people's eyes.
Yeah.
Yo, quick shout out to Jessica with all that marketing collateral too. Made us look official as hell.
Yes, she designed a fantastic logo. It's beautiful, and she does all of our social media design posts and emails that go out. She does a fantastic job.
Yeah, I mean, having the quality of that from the get-go, I think really helped make us look official when people were looking up our podcast, on Spotify or iTunes or whatever, however you get your podcasts. It puts some clout behind it that it looks as good as it does, which is weird to say because you don't. Oh,
it makes a difference. I am a total geek. I'm on all sorts of podcasts, Facebook groups, and all sorts of things. But that's like some of people will post a question, why does my podcast not get any listens? And the first things that people say is, what does your logo look like? Do you have a website? Right. What is like, how professional is it looking? How is it named? Is it clear as to what it is that you're talking about? Because all of those things have so much impact. As people are just scrolling through options, they do a search for flooring podcast. If yours looks hokey or doesn't really explain what it is that you're talking about, people are just going to skip over that. We have less than goldfish brain spans, and if you can just scroll right past that because it doesn't look appealing, you absolutely will.
Yeah.
So it's definitely makes a huge difference. We talked about just the stats on the where our downloads are coming from and where they're actually downloading the episode, and our website is one of the top ones. And Jessica just made an adjustment so that you could listen to every single episode from the website instead of just the most recent one. So just like little tweaks like that help encourage people to just stay on the website longer and listen to the next one and then listen to the next one.
Yeah. One of the things that's been fun as I've engaged with a few people about this is the walk the plank section. They love walk the plank.
No, is it because they love that we argue with each other, or that they love our topic?
Well, I think both. I think they like that we're debating industry, kind of hot buttons, right? Mm-hmm. AC ratings. We did one on Jenga hardness, and let me rant about that for a while. But I think it's just those little idiosyncrasies in our industry that don't get talked about, and then we talk about them, and I think people love engaging in that, or they then have their opinions. On those,
we scratch the itch of that flooring nerd.
Yes.
That's their hot button right there.
Yeah, so that's a fun way to engage as well. So if you have ideas for little hot button topics, Holiday and I would love to debate those as well.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you saw this yesterday in one of the flooring newsletters that came out, but NALFA put out a white paper on AC ratings. Yes. I was like, I wonder why. Could we have passively influenced this at all?
I think we might be giving ourselves too much credit to think we did, but certainly read through that and would love to engage in that conversation more. Mm-hmm. So one of our other sections we did was product spotlight. So we have a lot of new products coming in 2023.
Yeah, we do.
We were just chatting about that before we started this, and
Is that what we called it though? I thought it was wasn't it like
Fire in the Hole?
Fire in the Hole. I'm sorry.
Yes, but it was it's a product spotlight.
Yeah, and so I see more of those in our future.
Yes, I do. I again was thinking ahead about what we were going to talk about today, and I was thinking about Fire in the Hole. I was doing a transcription of one of our older episodes yesterday, and it was the one that had that in it. Okay. So it was fresh on my mind. But I was thinking, in addition to products, because we have a ton of new products coming out, we also might have some Fire in the Hole branch spotlights that we need to do. We've got maybe some new branches opening up and some adjustments to personnel in some different places. So we could adjust it slightly to be a spotlight of some other things.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I think people would love to hear about that.
Mm-hmm. Topic wise, what are some of the things we want to tease coming up for 2023?
Well, I think certainly, we're going to continue to try to find topics that we can educate you on, topics in the industry that we all struggle with. I like going back to step one. I think that we all oftentimes have to be caught up very quickly on things, and we are unsure. We didn't learn some of the real specifics early on, but we just had to keep pushing forward. Mm-hmm. So I think we're definitely going to look at how do we take some things back and really start at the 101 level on a lot of the industry topics and make sure that everybody's comfortable with what they're talking about. Yeah,
some of the requests that we had that we haven't got to yet, just because we got to figure out how to talk about them, are commercial, that whole industry. How does the quote and spec process work? What's required, not just flooring wise, but the prep for the flooring? What are things that people can be looking out for to make sure their commercial jobs don't fail? The multifamily section of our business is going to probably continue to boom for the next year. And that's a whole nother process. And what kind of products are good for multifamily, what are not, and what are some of the other things that people need to understand about just like selling into that. And also the builder world. I mean, that's probably not going to be the best segment of our business for the next year is housing prices and interest rates are affected, but it might be, I feel like sometimes when you're on a downturn, it's a great chance to learn more so that you're prepared when it comes back and you can hit it and you completely understand what you're getting into. Because the builder side of our business is so different too. It's a completely different ballgame. I'm excited for some of those. We've mentioned a couple of times, we have tons of new products coming out, and that in their new technology too. It's not just this, a new version of the same thing. We have some new products that are really, really interesting that have very different technologies that we definitely need to explain. I'm excited about those. I think we've got another sound abatement episode for sure that needs to be explored. I'd like to talk to some more folks in the flooring industry that have been around for a while. I would love, and I hope that he's listening to this episode, I would love for the owners of our company to explain more about where they came from, where TNA Supply came from, what the family history is. It has been a staple of the flooring industry in the Pacific Northwest for a very long time. Yep. And I know that I see joy on people's face when the family members explain the story of the company, and we do a horrible job of just like collecting that information and providing it to folks. I'm actually one of the youngest family members. I've tasked her with trying to kind of put together a family chronicle. She's even herself has had a hard time collecting the information. Right. But yeah, it's third, moving into fourth generation family business. And I think that that's something that should be celebrated. And I would love to provide that information to all of our customers and our employees so that they know who it is and what it is that they're representing and can be even more proud of that.
Yeah, that'd be excellent. I mean, I think that'd be a well-received,
hint.
Yes, a well-received podcast. The most exciting thing for me is podcast ideas that we don't even have yet because you haven't given them to us. I mean, this is, again, I'm going to repeat myself, but this is stemmed from the listeners and what do you want? What do you want to hear? That's what we want to talk about. We want to give you the information that you need in the market. So no topic is a topic we wouldn't consider. We love to talk about food. We always do that.
Oh, dude, I was about to say, let's be real here. The real teaser is what the food coming sometime soon.
Summer of 2023.
Yeah, because let's be honest here. We probably talk about food more than we do flooring. So.
That's our warm up.
It is.
It's our warm up.
It's how we vocally and get all of our equipment set up. So, but we have, there's going to be topics that you guys let us know about that are just great ideas. And that's something that I look forward to is those unknown topics. So
Jose, Tony, do you have any final thoughts about the podcast in general?
Like I said earlier, I'm kind of just along for the ride. And even though I'm not like super involved, I think it's something that I'm proud to be part of in the company. Different projects and things come up that you just are proud to be part of and work on, and this is definitely one of them. It helps too that it's like kind of a shareable thing. Anytime I'm like, whoa, I just made a really cool PowerPoint, like no one cares.
I care.
I made a really cool report yesterday, guys, and I'm really proud of it.
She did.
I showed Michael because I'm so proud of it.
Yeah. She's dope. I mean, she's got a lot going on.
No.
But, I mean, as far as like, sharing on LinkedIn or social or anything, this is kind of a fun one to be able to like show that I'm part of it. So I know that we'll get better at what we're doing and have some interesting people on. So I think I like the idea though of having the owners on. Oh man, that would be a good podcast episode.
Hint, hint.
Please be listening.
We're asking nicely.
Honestly, I'm just grateful for the experience. I'm glad you guys thought of me when we were thinking about starting this. Like a year ago, I didn't see myself working on a podcast. Definitely not something I had on my list, and I'm happy I'm involved.
I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and I'm a big nerd, so marketing, business to business marketing podcast. And one of the things that they were talking about was employee retention. And I'm happy to hear that you guys enjoy this particular project that you work on, because that's one of the things that helps retain employees is giving them projects that they can be proud of and have fun doing, and also giving them an opportunity to learn something new. So don't be like going off and looking for new jobs, being a professional podcast assistants and producers, please stick here with us.
I think I'm far from that right now.
Right.
But I really appreciate both of you helping out and everything that you provide, because it's not just what you do here in this studio right this moment, but all of the assistance with just idea generation. And again, if we're having a bad day, these two cheer you up pretty fast.
they do.
So that definitely helps.
That's got me blushing so much.
Right? Yeah. Come to our office anytime for a smile like that.
Yeah. I said it at the beginning. It's a team effort. I mean, we're all a part of this. It's been a fun little team to build, and there's times where it's felt like this exclusive little group, and I don't think we mean it to be that way. It's just this is who the team has become, and we continue to grow it. So we bounce ideas off each other, and we're better with each other than without, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it for this episode.
So for more in 2023, here we go.
Here we go. What the Floor is a TNA Supply Company original production. You can find out more about us at tasupply.com or tasflooring.com.
This show is produced by Jose Morales with help from Tony Collier and Jessica Reiser, hosted by Holiday Van Aram and Michael Gurria.
Please tell us what you think of the show by emailing us at WTFpodcast@tasupply.com or on social media, #WhatTheFloorPodcast.
And now the WTF, what are they called? Bloopers? And now the WTF bloopers.
Interview happens. It was so awesome. It was fantastic.
I don't even know if it's
Yeah,
working.
your mic
Yes,
works.
your mic works.
Jesus Christ.
She can't hear anything.
Sorry.
Left her in the dark, man. What if we had Tony and Jose do the intro?
Yeah.
Sure.
Who's going to be Holiday?
Jose has to be Holiday.
All right. I like it.
All right. This is What the Floor from TNA Supply Company Inc., a podcast for the flooring industry. I'm Holiday Van Aram.
And I'm Michael Gurria. We are going to explore the hot topics of the flooring industry with a little humor and a new set of eyes.
I like it.
Being taken over.
Pretty soon it's just me and Tony.
All right. Levels all right? All good? Okay.
All good.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah. Like a banjo.
Shut up.
I think that's it.
Nice. 3, 2, 1.
What the floor?